Welcome to Young Voices Changing the Currents. I'm your host, Haley Platt. My goal is to create a safe space that inspires students to share, inspire, and shape their futures together. Special thank you to our sponsors, Siembra Mobile. Thank you for listening today and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's dive right in. Hi, welcome to Young Voices Changing the Currents. I'm your host, Haley Platt. Today, I have a special guest, a fellow Bronco. She is a senior, and we're going to talk more about today her transfer experience because obviously she ended up at Santa Clara, but it took a long road to get there. And I'm really excited to hear about what she has to say and obviously hear about her plans for the future. So, welcome, Zaira Solorio.
Hi.
Hi.
It's so nice to meet you again.
Yes. Thank you for being
I
on.
Yes, I'm so excited, actually. A little
Great.
nervous, but excited.
That's okay. We'll get right into it. So if you wanted to start by telling everyone a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what your major is.
Yeah, of course. So I am born and raised in San Jose, California, which is just south of the Bay Area. I am a management major at the business school for Santa Clara University. I actually transferred in, so I pretty much only had 2 years instead of the usual 4 out of 4 year university. I currently love to just be at Barnes& and Nobles. I feel like that's very weird of me, but, like,
It's
it's like a home away from
a
home,
happy
because
place for me too.
no, I just don't get it. It's the environment. I love it, and if I could be there right now, I would be. I'd, like, choose it over anything sometimes.
Love that. Love a fellow reader. How do you think, transferring, let's talk more a bit about that. Um, at what point in your high school did you kind of have a better idea of what path you wanted to go?
Yeah, so I feel like for me, it was so weird. Going to high school, I had the mindset like, oh, after high school, it's a 4 year, right? Like a university. And weirdly enough, just throughout high school and all the experiences that you have, it really was just like a dream that I knew was not meant to be for me. I immediately started thinking about just going to CC community college right after high school and then transferring to SJSU, which is San Jose State University, because it's right in the area. Never really
Mhm.
thought of like anything bigger beyond that. So, although, like, talking about it seems sad, I feel like I was so sure about it, mostly because I had, like, test anxiety, and I did not wanna take the SATs and the ACTs.
Yeah.
Um, so now that I look back on it, it is actually something that I'm happy to have done.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have done it a little bit differently, but, I'm a 2020 senior, so COVID hit me in a really weird place where I just
Mhm.
transitioning was just a little weird, so
It can be difficult, yeah. As I've mentioned in other shows, I was a 2020 senior as well. Can be very difficult to look back on because we all kind of look back and we're like, wait, what happened during that time?
oh,
Just feels like a
honestly.
big blur. And
Mhm.
it is definitely really interesting to talk to people who are from California um, because I feel like I had such a different experience with it. Just simply because I'm from Massachusetts, so the pandemic, when we all went into lockdown, it was at a pretty high moment in the spring. There was no leeway. And then as it kind of spread towards California, California came into lockdown. And during the summer, things were kind of ramping back up. So I was getting all excited, like, okay, well, maybe it'll be okay. Maybe I'll still go. And then they send out a thing in August, a notification that's like, actually, we're not going to open. Everything's online. And I remember in that moment being like, what am I doing? Why am I going so far away? And this is obviously a huge deal. Everyone in the world knows pandemic impacted them in some way, but just having that moment of, am I doing the right thing? And I'm sure you had plenty of moments like that. Um, but obviously staying close to home and like everyone's path, I'm sure you look back and you realize that it was now a good decision for maybe what the pandemic was, because I feel like I had a lot at Santa Clara that my sister, who's a sophomore there right now, she's done everything. She's lived in the dorms, she's had off campus, normal freshman year. And so just so you know, you didn't miss much transferring in the beginning. But let's pivot now a little bit to, those kind of challenges that you faced. What do you think the biggest challenge you faced during college admissions process was, and how did you overcome that?
I think the biggest thing for me was, entering community college was very simple. You do your application, and then, like, when it's time to get the acceptance letter, you receive it on email, like, "You've been accepted," which is, like, so good. Yay.
Yeah.
But when it came to transferring out of CC, I pretty much had to do it myself, especially for Santa Clara University, um, due to it being a private university.
Yeah.
I
It's not
know
as
that
fluid as the UC CSU system, just because of the scale.
no, yeah, I ended up speaking to my guidance counselor, and they had no idea about how they could help me to
Mhm.
transfer there, and it felt like I had no support because 'cause I'm first gen, so none of my family really knows anything about the college and university experience, and I had to figure it out all by myself. I would call the university, I would figure out what is it that I need in order to transfer here, what paperwork do I have to do prior to submitting my application, is there
Mhm.
anything that's needed afterwards, and it really foreshadowed what it was to come even going into, like, the university,
Yeah.
and more or less, it gave me a bit of a highlight, which is nice, of, like, what I'm gonna go through, but it wasn't enough to give me any confidence to really
Hmm.
pull that through once I was admitted.
That's interesting because from other people I've had on who are also first gen, it's been a everyone has a different experience, completely different experience with it. And I would say a few of them have said that the process helped with their confidence because they stuck with it and they were unsure of their place kind of leading into the process, but they knew that because they had completed it, that they were ready. Um, do you think once you got there, what were your feeling? Let's talk about more about your emotions towards it because I know that especially with first generation, you don't have you have your family's support, but it's not necessarily in like an academic and professional way. Um, so where do you think that you could have gotten more of that from? Or, like, what resources do you wish you had?
Yeah. I think the best way to describe it is, like being a soccer player. When you're playing the game, it's just you and you have teammates to help you, but your family, your friends, they're sitting in the audience seats, right? They're
Mhm.
nowhere near you to help you make that goal.
Yeah,
And you can feel their support, but during the game, it's all on you. You have to be
yeah.
present, you have to be the one to have done the practice and remember the plays and all of that. So, from my friends and family, it was very much just them sort of believing in me. I think I had a tough time due to, like, imposter syndrome, believing in myself and thinking that I was not gonna be able to do it, that I would get rejected, that I would end up with student loans and all this debt, and just kind of like a looming doom was building up within me. And having my friends and family there believing in me was something that kind of led me through that dark tunnel and making it to the light, to put it in that way. But I honestly wish I had more support from community college. But then again, I was entering that place where it was all online. So I didn't have the time to make
Yeah,
the proper connections with the proper people to help me move forward, because that they recognize it in community college that they are a stepping stone to move you to a 4 year. And I just didn't really have that. It was very much always, reaching out, sending an email, doing a Zoom, not feeling a connection, but knowing that they're supposed
Mm.
to help me through the process. And more or less, I wish there was more support. I know that in that time, it couldn't have
Yeah,
been like a closer connection, but just more outlet in order to read about it and to really more or less give me that confidence.
yeah, I think you're not alone in that experience with the other 2020 grads. One of my good friends, I was talking to him about it because he also transferred to Santa Clara and graduated in 2024. And he was saying how when he was actually at the community college because of COVID, he said, I don't think this would have happened if I hadn't gone during COVID. Because he knows people younger than him who have had really positive experiences. But just because of the state of the world, everyone was doing online classes. There wasn't really that community that brought people together in the way that it is now and it was pre-COVID. Um, just because I think that it's important to note, like obviously COVID really impacted our early stages of learning, and it's not the same for everyone. But it's good to hear at least that you felt at least in one point or another that by the time you did transfer and you did get there, of course, you have those feelings of imposter syndrome and am I meant to be here? But you stuck it out and you're about to graduate. So proud of you for that. Because it's really easy to get down on yourself and doubt yourself and feel like you're not meant to be here. But um, do you think there's a moment from when you transferred and you were at the 4 year college that you doubted yourself and there was someone there to kind of remind you, like, "No, you're meant to be here."
I think I had 2 people in that situation. I had my partner outside of the school setting being there and supporting me, but in the school setting, I had or still have technically, a mentor when I came in and joined the first gen program, and seeing them, knowing that they had just gone through this last year, more or less motivated me and also helped me kinda get my footing in,
Yeah.
and it was nice to have someone to talk to and have them understand me and help me out, give me their, cheat codes per se to go through your first year as a transfer because it really is different from going in as a first year. And I feel like although a lot of people understand it, they don't know how to help and they don't see too many
Yeah.
of the differences. So speaking to someone that is exactly like me or just has just went through it, it really it gave me some comfort, and I think that's
Yeah.
kind of what I needed at that point.
I think so. I think it's great that obviously there's programs that allow a space for students to share and connect with other people that have um, similar pasts and, like, experiences. Couldn't find the word. But I think that it's really important to talk about it because there's so many emotions that you can feel that you're alone on. But when you start talking about it with other people, it kind of opens up and makes you realize, like, okay, I'm not alone in this, brings you a sense of comfort. And obviously, now you're in your senior year. Is there anyone or like any moment where you felt you could pass on your knowledge to some of the first gen students who are younger than you?
I actually applied to be a mentor and I got the job, so I am now a peer mentor to others like me, I think about 6, 7, and it feels nice when they come up to me when they see me on campus and they say they wanna say hi, they wanna talk, but also when they reach out through text, having questions, being like, "I don't know what to do here. What do I do?" And being able to give that advice and being able to be there for them and go through that situation if it isn't just like a one thing. Um, Also hanging out with them and being able to connect with them in a way that I connected with my peer mentor. I know that that brought me comfort, so being able to hopefully be doing the exact same to them brings me, like, some joy.
Yes. And I'm sure a lot of
And
validation as well, like validating those feelings that they're maybe voicing the same exact concerns that you had a year or 2 ago, and you're like, "Yes, I see you. I was there. Like, I promise you're gonna be okay." So, that's really nice. Um, Anything else you wanna share about your first gen experience? I know we've haven't really talked a bit about your family if you wanna share more.
I feel like my situation might have been a little bit different. I know when it comes to that first gen story, and I've like I mentioned before, your family really is there and they're supporting you, but the ways that they can show their support is definitely going to be different than what is usually portrayed. Like, for example, my parents were just there physically and like emotionally. I know they were rooting for me. There wasn't usually like confirmation.
Mm,
I know that they would provide in different ways to show their support, more or less, housing for one, but them letting me have a certain area within like the house of like, okay, that is yours. That's where you get to study. We do want you to go all the way. We want you to get your bachelor's. So we won't bother you when you're sitting here. That's how we're going to let you know, like, okay, this is your time. And, like, for friends, of course, it's very much verbally, like, "I believe in you. I know you have this. You're so smart." Like,
you have great
all
friends, that's so nice.
um, and I feel like, thankfully, I was able to get both the best of both worlds. I know that it wasn't, like, one big combination from one person, but having it separately and knowing that, like, I had a little community and, like, people saying, "It takes a village."
Yeah,
It
everyone
really
is
does.
rooting for you. Yeah, that's awesome. I think, in those moments, your friends and your family are ultimately the final like, can be the difference between not pursuing it and pursuing it. It can be that final push of being like, "No, you got this. I'm here for you." And I think it's really special. And I wanna talk a little bit more about your experience living at home while you were in community college. Um, do you think that there were opportunities, I mean, aside from the COVID stuff, where you just said your parents gave you like that leeway to kind of adult and have your own space? Do you have any recommendations for students who are planning to live at home, maybe a current high school senior or someone in their freshman year who's maybe struggling with the transition and not sure how to like keep their high school selves in one box and try to come out of their shell a little bit, maybe attend more events or create boundaries in with their parents. If you have any advice for that, I think that would be helpful.
Yes, I think the biggest thing is that you're gonna have to communicate a lot, especially to your parents, because you're no longer a high schooler, right?
Mhm.
You're now an adult, quote unquote. Many of us are entering college as 18-year-olds, but also 17. You know, you have to let them know that I may not come home right after school. I may stay after my last class and go to an event or go and speak to members of a club that I wanna join,
Or go grab a
and
coffee. Don't get worried about me.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a lot of that communication, and you are gonna get pushback being like, "I want you home. I know you're an adult, but you're still living under my roof."
Mm.
I feel like that's a common experience for Latinos like myself, getting that, "No, you're going home." Um, but speaking to them and getting them to understand that this is what it's gonna be like for the next 4 years, it's gonna help build that foundation that you're gonna need because stepping out of your comfort zone and actually going to many events is one of the things that you have to do, especially as a commuter. You're not living on campus, so you don't have that easy access to
Mhm.
meet people and to quickly just be like, actually, I'm gonna go to the event. They're having food. I wanna get free
Yeah.
food. You're traveling 10 to 30 minutes in order to get to school. And sometimes taking that extra step of just staying after your last class and meeting with someone, speaking to people, it's going to give you that. one up that you need as a commuter, as living on
Yeah.
at your house.
Just to feel like you're a part of that on-campus community. Um, I was saying to someone the other day, even just instead of joining a gym that's close to you, join the campus gym, or
Mhm.
go ask your school friends if they want to study in the library. Just the little things will build up, and by the time you get to senior, you won't feel as alone. Maybe if because a lot of people, the reality is, like San Jose is huge. A lot of people do commute, and it is a more cost effective way. I sure, if I wasn't from Boston, I would sure consider that. Um, and I think it's really important just to kind of let people know that they're not alone in the commuter role. Like I feel like a common thing would be, oh, well, no one else I know commutes, or everyone I know lives in this dorm, or everyone I know belongs to this club. It's like, well, you just have to take the extra step, and it can be hard, but that extra step to try to integrate yourself with that community is something that I think all of us 2020 kids, we didn't miss out on it as much. I wouldn't really say that, but we had to do the one extra thing because we lost out on so much time, and it rushed a lot of things. So
Yeah.
I came back sophomore year and was like, "Ugh, I'm not part of any clubs. I feel like I didn't do anything last year." My mom was like, "Haley, you didn't go to a single in-person class last year. Like, how would you have been expected to go to other events? Like, nothing was happening." I was like, "Oh, right." Like, I need to not. You can't beat yourself up.
Correct. Yeah.
You can't beat yourself up. And there's obviously moments where you feel that, what am I doing here? But
Mhm.
yeah, sometimes you need someone like like your mom or your friend to kind of bring you back down to earth and be like, "Nope, you're actually okay. You're
Yeah.
right where you need to be."
And I feel like most of us have the image when we say community to be like a group of people, like more than 7, less than 15, because then that's way too much. But in reality, community is sometimes 2 to 3 people. It does not have to be as much as you think. So even though you are making that push of going out to events, trying to speak to people in class, it doesn't have to be that you have 10 people on your phone, like your contact
Yes.
list, being like, these are all the people from school. This is my community. If you have 2 people that constantly also ask you to hang out, want to see you, that is a community. And that is
Yeah,
better than a
it is
community of
better.
15
It is
people
better.
that don't want to talk. So,
Yeah, and I think a biggest one of the biggest challenges between, being in college and even now in post grad is that there's not as many natural ways to meet people your age. And so when you're not naturally in those spaces, it becomes an individual like struggle because you're like, oh, why don't I have more friends in this new city I moved to? Or why don't I, maybe it's like the end of your senior year. I talked to every single one of my friends. We went to school all over the country, every single region. Every single one was like, oh, I'm a little nervous about senior pictures. Who am I going to take them with? And I'm looking at them and I'm like, you don't need a group of 20 million people to take your picture with. You can take your picture with you and your best friend. And that's great. And if you don't want to take it with anyone, then you go march in front of that church and you take it by yourself. And everyone will be like, okay, like who's that girl?
yeah.
So just giving everyone
Also,
a word to the wise. Not all
exactly.
expressivity, but
If you're paying for a photographer, you you gotta do it. It's you. You're
yeah,
paying for
you
it.
have to. Yeah, just some of the senior spring activities, embrace it all, say yes to everything. I'm sure you're very excited. It's now spring quarter. So if you want, let's talk a bit more about your plans for post grad. Do you have any idea what you want to do? Um, yeah.
That is probably the biggest question you get the moment you turn,
Hmm.
like, a senior. They're like, "What are you doing afterwards?" I still don't know, and
That's
I
great.
think I have to keep reminding myself that that is okay. I have many opportunities that have come up. I'm currently an intern, so continuing to work with them would be great. But
Yeah,
I live in Silicon Valley, so working for a tech company, I'm not saying is the go-to, but I think is something that I need to explore.
yeah.
And I potentially could work at a sales department for a tech company, so that would be really great. But the most exciting thing that I have lined up post-grad is a trip to Disneyland as a celebration. So
So fun. I love it.
that is probably like my number one thing that I'm excited about. And then number two is like completely turning myself into the corporate world and
Yes.
being in that 24/7.
Well, I feel it's hard, especially, we both were business school. I think it can be overwhelming just because of the different majors having different time periods of the year where they're job searching, and all the finance and accounting are in the fall. So you see all these
Mhm.
people being like, "Yay, I'm going to work at Big 4 or this awesome real estate firm." You're kind of sitting there like, "Oh gosh, what am I doing?" And then you just have to remind yourself like there are different job cycles. You don't have to know what you're doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was doing something else, and then I said, "Actually, I don't think that's for me," and decided not to. So, you always have to go with your gut, and if you really love something, I interned with my current company senior fall, and I took a pause because it was a startup, and I was like, "All right, this isn't really that realistic. I should go look elsewhere." Well, guess where I am at now, because I loved it so much and I wanted to come back. So, just as we're wrapping up, do you have any parting advice for any of the younger students?
Um, take it one thing at a time. As much as transferring in gave me limited time at my current school, I tried to put so much on my plate that it stressed me out that I feel like I didn't go through everything on my plate, and that was a bit more upsetting than if I had, like, maybe 2 things on the list of, like, "These are the 2 things I wanna get done." If they do, I can explore more. If not, that is what life kind of gave me.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of this quote from my favorite all-time show, which is Parks and Rec, um, from one of the characters, Ron Swanson, that said, "Never half ask 2 things." I don't know if I could say that,
It's
but
okay.
never half ask 2 things, whole ask 1 thing. So, like, give it your all, focus on 1 thing. Once you're through with it, go to the next. I know multitasking is gonna be a characteristic that people are gonna want you to have lined up and be on your resume, and it's easy to multitask a lot of things, but you wanna also show that you can be committed to 1 thing,
Yeah,
and you can finish that. And I think that's something very important to all of us in university because we never really see it that way. We see that we have to be doing all of these things all at once, when in reality,
yeah.
we shouldn't really be kind of straining ourselves that way.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, as a fellow perfectionist and overachiever, multitasker. It's okay to slow down. Not everything has to be full speed ahead all the time.
Mhm.
Um, so with that said, I hope you enjoy the rest of your senior year. It's so exciting.
Thank you.
And, it's so nice to have other people on who really understand the value of, like, the community and enjoying what you have in the moment. So thank you so much for being on today. It's so nice to have you. And thank you
Of
to our
course, thank you.
sponsors. We love having people on who can really share their first gen experience and their transfer experience. And I wish you well in the future.
Thank you.
Oh,
It was
nice.
lovely meeting you.
Yes, you too. So, just to wrap things up, thank you so much for being on. And thank you to our sponsors, Siembra Mobile. We would not be here without you. And of course, thank you to our viewers. I know your time is valuable. So, really appreciate you being here today. Thank you.